Welcome back. We are on day one of our new project. This is an absolute student favorite, the Eye of the Dragon. So I'm really excited to share this with you guys. Just as, wrapping up from the last project, if you haven't yet turned it in, or if you haven't yet added it to the Hall of Fame and you would like to do that, be sure to do those things. The sooner the better. Because we don't want to have like two things happening at once. That just gets a little bit stressful. So if we can remember to finish off our last project and then now, yay, we're starting our new project today. That is always fun, okay? Excellent, okay. So like I said, this next project is called Eye of the Dragon. We are going to be using oil pastels. For this project, we're going to be talking about warm colors and cool colors and color gradients amongst a million other amazing things. Well, maybe not a million, but a lot of other really amazing things. So, before we get going, you guys always know we do a little bit of a brainstorming session to kind of get the ideas going, transitioning from last project into new project time. So, let's check out some eyes of other creatures here. Okay, so while I'm talking, I want you to be thinking and potentially even guessing what creature this eye belongs to. So feel free to jot down or type in the chat box or whatever you want to do, or just think it, that's okay too, about what this eye might belong to, what kind of animal. So we have this beautiful eye here, and I want you to notice, first off, the shape of the pupil. Because that's not the same shape as, say, my eye's pupil or yours, right? We've got kind of like this narrow, long slit. So that's going to give us a clue. Another thing, as we're looking at all of these, I want you to think about like, ooh, I like this about this one and this about that one, and how might we merge these things that you like from these different examples and other examples that you may find over the next few class periods. How might we merge these to create your dragon super eye, just like all the coolest ideas into one eyeball. Anyway, another thing that I wanted to mention about this one too is you can kind of start seeing some color gradients. I'm going to talk more about that in just a bit, but do you see how it kind of goes, like fades from greens to blues and from light blues to dark blues and even some grays in there too? We'll talk about that more, but I want you to start noticing that as well. All right, let's find out what this says. Whose eye is this? Oh, a kitty cat. I'm guessing a lot of us probably figured that one out, especially with that very distinct pupil, right? Not many creatures have that kind of slit pupil. So cute. Those are beautiful eyes, aren't they? All right, on to the next one. Whose eye is this? It's probably not a cat this time, I'm guessing. What I want you to notice about this one, first off, notice around the eye. Okay, so like the skin of this creature, it's much different than ours, isn't it? Like if you are to look at our eyes, it's very smooth. Where that skin meets the eyeball, it's very smooth. This is not so much. That texture is much more rough, isn't it? It's bumpy, it's lumpy, it's textured. So that could give us a clue. It could also give us inspiration for when we're doing our dragon eye. Maybe we want to make it scaly and bumpy and things like that, okay? Another thing I want to talk about for this eye, this beautiful, beautiful color gradient. Look at this. So if you look at the iris, so that's the colorful part, like mine is blue. On here, you can see it kind of goes from like pretty much black, right? Like the outer ring of that is like almost black. Blackish brown, and then it goes to kind of more like a brick red, to more of a true red, to an orange, to a dandelion, to a yellow, and if you look really closely, let's see if I can get my mouse, do you see right here, it's even starting to turn a little bit green. Like that is an amazing color gradient. And something you should know about color gradients, with a color gradient, it's going to transition from one color to the next without there being like a distinct line. So think about a sunset. When we see a sunset, you know, it maybe goes from like yellow to orange to kind of a pinky red to a red to a purpley red to purple. But it's not like, here's this line, there's that line. No, it just like fades so gradually. That's a color gradient where it just like merges from one color to the next. There's no defined like line between it. And we're seeing that in this beautiful creature's eye. Have we guessed it yet? Let's see. A chicken. They're so fun. I love chickens. Anyway, so that's the eyeball for that one. So once again, we can get inspired by lots of different creatures when it comes to our dragon eye. Whose eye is this? One thing I love about this eyeball is it reminds me of like a solar eclipse. Doesn't it? Like with that yellow around the rim of the pupil, it just looks like like the moon's coming in, it's covering up the sun, there's an eclipse happening. But once again, we can kind of see that gradient going from like that yellow in the center to kind of like an amber to brown to reddish brown. And another thing I wanted to mention with this one, we kind of see this white spot here, and you've probably noticed this in all of them so far, but I just want to point it out with this slide. When we're making eyes, it's important to leave at least one white spot or multiple. And that's what we call the highlight of an eye. So if you look at my eyes, I'm gonna get real creepy here. You can probably see that there's some white spots on them. And when we leave those highlights, it's what brings life to your drawing. It makes it look more alive. Then if there isn't one, it looks just more flat. So to add that life in, we'll talk about this along the way. Highlights, gonna be important. Any ideas on what this one is? An iguana. Doesn't look very happy. Actually, that's kind of the same face it's making. All right, continuing on. Whose eye is this? Now, what kind of pupil is going on there? Well, we can tell it's fuzzy. I don't know if you're thinking you want your dragon to be fuzzy at all, but I mean, this thing is fuzzy. And it has got an interesting shaped pupil. Might give it away. We don't see a ton of color gradients in this one. A little bit. Not much. This one was more just because the pupil is interesting. And I wanted to talk about the fact that your pupil does not have to be a stereotypical like round pupil or like the cat with the slit or like whatever this is with this kind of like long rectangular look to it. And it could be something entirely different. So just keep that in mind. It's a dragon. It's mythological. You can make its pupil look however you want. So what is this one? Oh, it's a goat. Yep, that's a goat. And I'm guessing a lot of us probably knew that because they have very unique eyes. This guy's silly. All right, whose eye is this one? Once again, we can see that highlight if you're looking here. Like this is a really big highlight here, even a little bit in there too. That color gradient from gold to amber and brown and black towards the edges. Who do we think this one belongs to? It's an eagle. If you guessed any kind of bird, I think that counts. Whose eye is this? Notice the pupil is a different shape than we've maybe ever noticed. There's all kinds of texture and color gradients going on this eye and around the edges as well. So what creature could this possibly belong to? Well, it could be your dragon eye because you get to design it. So let's take a look at some dragon eyes that have been created, some examples. These are cool, aren't they? Oh my goodness. So looking at those color gradients, so let's see, I'm going to start up at this one. Once again, kind of going from dark orange to a lighter orange to that dandelion to yellow. Let's see, and here we've got from like blue to green to a mid-tone green to a dark green, back to mid-tone, back to light green. We've got our highlights, like, beautiful. Gorgeous, gorgeous. You'll notice, and we'll talk about this more too, but with color gradients, we really want to have colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. Like you wouldn't go from purple to yellow. Purple and yellow are across from each other, and you're actually going to mix brown if you do that. So we want colors that are next to each other on the color wheel, and we'll be practicing that today as well. But if you're looking at any one of these, you can see like purple, light blue, dark blue, greens, right? This one red, orange to yellow. This one purple to dark blue to light blue to dark green to light green to yellow before we hit the pupil in the middle. Like, these are just beautifully done. So these are some student examples. I just wanted to give you an idea of what yours might look like once this project is finished. And of course, this is days and days and days away, but I just like always giving you a heads up to, hey, this is what our goal is. This is what we're looking for. So it's going to be a full sheet of paper, really just focused on the dragon eye and that area around the eye, the spikes, the scales, the whatever we're adding to it to add dimension and character. All right. So why don't we go ahead and just make sure we have everything we need. These are our supplies for today. So you've got a worksheet that says exercise and color gradation. You should have your oil pastels. And you might want some scrap paper from at home. That's just going to help us if we need to clean our oil pastels or give us a buffer too between our hand and the oil pastels. So just as a heads up, if you want to start gathering these things as I talk about the next part, start gathering those up. That's what we're going to need for today. So let's go back here and discuss gradation a little bit more. I know we've hit on it, but let's just talk about it a little bit more. What does that mean? So, first off, remind me, I know we've talked about this, but it's really important that you know the difference between warm colors and cool colors. In fact, there may be some questions on it at the end of the semester quiz, so let's just sink that into our core memories right now. So which colors are considered warm? Well, when I think of something that's warm, I like to think of like a fire, right? And if I were to color in a picture of a fire, what colors would I use? Well, I'd probably use red, orange, and yellow. So for me, I'm a very visual person, probably why I became an art teacher. And so I like to visualize like something warm. And for me, I like to visualize a fire, and then that helps me remember that red, orange, yellow are my warm colors. These will blend together beautifully together. Ooh, how pretty. Remember that sunset I was talking about before? Look at that. Gorgeous. Color gradation from one color to the next. So then what are the cool colors? Like I said, I'm a visual person, so for me, I like to visualize that I'm sitting by a cool lake. Maybe my toes are dipped into the water. I'm sitting on the grass. The water is this beautiful blue color, and where it gets really deep, it almost even looks purple. So what are our cool colors? Green for the grass, blue for the water, and where it gets really deep, that almost purplish color showing through as well. So those are going to be our cool colors. And here's a beautiful painting showing those cool colors and some color gradations happening between those cool colors as well. Okay, so what is a gradation? How do you do it? What's going on here? So basically, a color gradation is a progressive transition from one color to another, and we want to stay with colors that are next to each other. Like, so I could go from purple to red to orange. That works. I could go from yellow to orange to red. I can go from green to yellow. Did I say green, yellow, orange? Yeah. Or yellow, green, blue. As long as they're next to each other, it's going to work. You just don't want to go from like purple to yellow to blue. Like, it's just, that's not going to work. We want colors that are next to each other. So choosing neighboring colors on the chromatic circle, that's going to help us, the color wheel. Okay, you can also use the same color, so you could go from like light blue to dark blue, or light blue to mid-tone blue to dark blue. That also works. Okay, so on your worksheets, that's where we're going to be practicing that today. And so once again, here's a color wheel. It just kind of shows you all those colors next to each other. So you could choose like these colors, or those colors, or these colors, right? Any colors that are next to each other, you can use. It's going to work out well. So our color gradation sheet, I'll show you exactly step by step in a moment, but basically we're going to make something that looks kind of like this. As a reminder, it is our practice sheet. We're on day 1, so I'm not looking for perfection. We're just practicing, right? It's like if we were learning how to play a new song on the piano. Would not expect perfection the first time you play it, but we're going to practice it time and time again until we get better and better at it. Okay, I am going to show you the demonstration, but then once we're done, I have a little video where you can kind of see in like quick time a dragon eye being made, which is sort of fun to see the whole process in a short amount of time. All right, switching over our view, here we go. Exercise and color gradation. This one says from blue to green. So you can choose which blue, you can choose which green. If you're going for like a dark blue though, I'd probably go for a darker green, just because we're only doing 2 colors here. It doesn't say dark blue to light blue to light green, right? So we're only doing 2 colors. I'd try to keep them kind of in the same zone as each other. So I'm gonna maybe choose, I'm gonna do that blue to this green for mine. Okay, so I'm gonna get started here. Blue's going on this side. Remember, we're not looking for perfection here. So if your lines look kind of like this and they're not like exactly to the edge, that's totally okay. One thing that I like to mention is that when I get started, I always kind of try to figure out which one is the lighter of the 2 colors. And I would say between these two, the green, right? If I had chosen like this green, it almost looks black on camera, then that green would be darker. But between these 2 exact hues, I'm going to say that this green is lighter. And so usually when I start bringing them together to create that gradation, I usually bring the lighter color in first. Reasoning: it is easier to cover up a lighter color with something darker than it is to cover up something darker with something lighter. So you'll notice because I know my green is lighter, I actually have it a little bit further down and give more room for that. And now I'm going to start bringing in my blue ever so lightly over the top. Sort of like shading, you know, you can hold it back further. That's going to help you put less pressure on it. Holding it to the side a little bit, right? That kind of helps too. But I'm going to just start merging these 2 colors together. We've got to start, right? I wouldn't say it's done by any means. From here, some people like to use blending stumps. Some people like to use their fingers. Some people like to use like a tissue, like a Kleenex, and blend it with that. I like to just use what's called hatching and cross hatching. So I like to kind of build with it. One thing I find with oil pastels is sometimes if I blend too much with like finger or blending stump or tissue, something like that, is it starts to kind of rub off, at least for me. Now I see students who do use those techniques and it looks beautiful. It looks like smooth velvet. So you got to find as an artist the techniques that work best for you. But I tend to like these building techniques where you just kind of keep going in different directions over the top. And you got to be careful with this too, because it will also do some of that where it makes almost like little oil pastel boogers, you guys, like little crumbs. So if that happens to you, you know, not a bad idea to have like a waste bin next to you to kind of brush that off into. But like I said, kind of a building process. I'll bring some more of the green into the blue as well. And it's looking pretty good. I can still see a bit of a defined line there. So I might work on that a little bit more. Just try to blend that. I don't want to spend forever on my video because, well, you know, we got other colors to get to here too. But we're looking for something kind of like that. Once again, rough edges, 100% okay for this. Let's see, what's next? Dark green to light green. Okay, I already have a light green out. I'm going to get out a dark green next. Same process. Remember, whatever color is darker, you want to start with like less of that. Easier to go over with light, or go over the light with dark than it is to go over the dark with light. You probably noticed that as I was working on the last one too. Okay, so I might want to go, there we go, and bring it right up to it. And here we go. Let's start merging those two together. Don't be afraid to turn your paper and work in different directions. That can kind of help with making it look a little bit more gradual. We're getting there. I feel like I probably should have started a little more to the right on this one. Maybe overcorrected a bit too much, but either way, I'm still going to be seeing the gradation, so that's what we want. There. Well, now we're going to shift it a little bit to the right. I can see a little bit here where it's starting to do that. As you get too thicker, you're blending too much. Sometimes it gets a little bit muddy. This is why we practice, right? Let's see, in this spot too a little bit. Okay. Feel free to work at your own pace. You do not need to be working like along with this. You can just watch even for now and do later. Okay, I'm going to go, next one is purple to blue. I actually think I'm going to do this purple with this blue. Actually, you know what? I want to skip that one. Let's do a three-part one. So I'm going to go from red to orange to yellow. My red is seen better days, to say the least. Oh, another thing I should mention, remember how I said you can have a scrap piece of paper out next to you? Sometimes if you ever see that your oil pastel is dirty, before you start using it on something, use it on that scrap piece of paper. You can see how I've got that reddish color that was in there. Over here there's some peachy, so feel free to have a scrap piece of paper. You could also use this for under your hand too, so that you're not getting oil pastel all over yourself, or at least not as much. Do prepare that it is a little messy no matter what. So heads up on that. Okay, red, orange, yellow. Let's do that one. And then I'll let you guys have some work time. But here's my red. I'm only gonna fill in a little spot for now. We'll do orange. It's gonna be in the middle. Orange is gonna be lighter, so I'm gonna bring it more that way. And then yellow, let's see. There's my better yellow. I probably should clean that off. It's a little bit dirty. You can see some reds and greens on there. So I'm just going to clean that off on this paper first. And yellow, of course, is lighter than orange. So there we go. So I've got the three colors. Now let's start bringing them together for our color gradation. So bringing the red very lightly, I'm barely using pressure here, into the orange. Then I'm going to come back with the lighter color on top to help blend those. It's looking pretty gold, but I maybe want to add a little more red over here. The weight of the paper was kind of showing through a bit more than I prefer, but that's pretty nice looking for a quick little demo here. Now I'm going to start bringing the darker color onto my lighter color. Barely any pressure here. Come back with my lighter over the top of the darker to help blend that. There we go. And once again, I can play around with this a little bit more, but you can see that color gradation. Our goal is going to be to turn this into something that looks like this before next class. So play around with it. Don't forget to be recording your time in your art journal. And as you're working on that, we are going to also check out from start to finish in about a minute an Eye of the Dragon project and see what that looks like. Okay? So excited to see what this looks like. It's practice. Please don't expect perfection out of yourself. We're going to continue to practice as this project goes on. Have fun.